Hello, this is a special one-off podcast for City Bumpkin because I'm here in my mum's garden in Leytonton near Worcester, and she's been talking to me a bit about the significance of various plants in her garden and how some of them remind her of her mum, my grandma, who passed away last year. And I thought I must record some of this because the garden looks so beautiful at the moment. It would be really nice just to hear about some of the plants. So where should we start, Mum?
Okay, well, the first thing probably to say is I came here in 1999, which is 17 years ago. And when I came, I didn't know I could garden, didn't know I liked gardening. I'd managed to keep gardens going in tied accommodation where I'd lived up until then. And you could never spend money on a garden that wasn't yours because it's quite an expensive hobby. It is the way I do it anyway. And when I first came, the garden had been allowed to get quite overgrown. I was on my own. It was real therapy at the time. And a gardener came and helped move a lot of shrubs. And we reinvested the pond, which had been put in, taken out, and then put back in. And it went from there, really. And probably in the last 8 years, I've developed a real passion. And since my retirement a year ago, I've really been able to spend time on the garden. But what I also love about gardening, and I've realised, is you get very sentimentally attached to certain plants. I was an occupational therapist for a long time, and I'd go and visit lots of patients, and often you'd admire, as a way of talking to them about things, you'd admire their garden, which was very genuine on my part, and you'd come back the next time and they'd dug you up a root. So I've got Nereem lilies given to me by a patient probably 17 years ago. An old gentleman nicked off a piece of a lovely tree, which I've got around the side, and gave me that, and that's taken. And we've had presents when we got married. We were given roses and things. And so I've always got memories of people. My mum and dad were passionate gardeners, mum in particular. And I've learnt since she died, I didn't always know what her favourite plants were actually, but there's a perennial wallflower, which is this purple one over here. And apparently it was one of her favourite plants. And certainly my sisters and I have all now got probably lots of them in the garden. In memory, well, not in memory of her, but as a tribute to her, I suppose. She also loved, she was just a very good sort of hands-on gardener. She loved poppies. I've always had poppies in the garden. And then last year I was looking for something that we could have as a sort of memory of her, really, and found a poppy called Helen Elizabeth. I'll take you to show you that one, which is a very beautiful poppy. And the plants that came were very pathetic and weak, and we've had to really nurture them through last winter. But now I've got 3 out of 5 healthy plants. And the flowers are very beautiful. But unfortunately, it's that pink one that's just about to come out at the back, but it looks very similar to this one, but pink.
But pink, yeah. So I'm a little bit early for that one.
Yes, well, we had a flower on
but
it.
I can see it's going to be beautiful.
It's very beautiful. You girls gave me this rose, which is beautiful, called Spectred Isle, which I think you all thought was in memory of Mum when she died, and reminded you all that they lived on Orkney for a long time. And it's a very pretty pink rose. And I've got 2 other very pretty pink roses here given to me by neighbours the year we got married to sell. They were the Queen's rose for her 80th birthday. So this is a very pink corner, and these are all my Nereem lilies, which come out in September and are very pretty.
And what's the water we can hear in the background?
That's a pond, which Mum and Dad built a pond like this about...
Which Eddie fell into.
He did. But then I thought you were joking.
No, he really did.
Because we said, be very careful with Granny's pot. Don't be ridiculous, Mum, he can't possibly fall. And he did with all 4 of you standing there.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. He just toppled in.
Yes.
And then came out.
Sobbing, looking a bit shocked. Yeah. Yes, I should think so. Well, this pond, so we helped them build that pond. And it's a very easy pond because it's freestanding, so that you don't have to dig a hole in the ground. And the sides, as you can see, are more or less put up like logs. So you put one on And then the seats were probably the weak part of this pond in many ways. And Mum and Dad's, we learnt a lot from putting theirs together. And then 2 summers ago, I decided what they needed was a more permanent solution. And I'd never done mosaics, so I thought I'd do some mosaics and have a go.
Yeah.
Yes, and
I'll
I
take
was
some pictures.
Yes, I was really pleased about those.
Yeah.
And I was quite pleased because I had to work out how to do it on something that was going to be permanently wet. And I discovered there was a product called Hardy Backer Board, which I didn't know about, which is a concrete board, which you can obviously put underwater. So I laid the mosaics onto that. And then the sides, I've in fact just recently re-screwed those in because I stuck them on with glue, which hasn't been a long-term solution. But the really spooky thing, and the thing that it was real therapy doing this. I did it for the month that Mum was dying. She was very poorly and we were backwards and forwards. And for me, it wasn't intentional, actually, but it ended up being a project that just got me really sort of engrossed. And I put the last tile on and I thought I'll just go down into Malvern I'd got something I wanted to do. And the phone call to say Mum had actually died, when I thought back, was the time I'd put the last tile on these. So for me, that was quite so these are also a sort of memory of my mum.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
I
of
didn't realise that.
No, well, it was quite spooky, but it... and so they're supposed to depict the fish and the water, and there's a frog on a lily pad there. Yeah, so easy to see. But yeah, no, I've been and I want to do some more mosaics in the garden, but I haven't. I've got plans.
They're really beautiful.
Yeah, they're lovely, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they're warm to sit on, which is quite nice. So when the sun shines on them.
Oh, so they absorb lots of heat.
And they do.
Oh,
yeah.
fantastic.
I'm also very into my mirrors. Mirror on the wall, because I think they give you a whole dimension beyond. They reflect the garden back, and so you get a sense of perspective and space, which I really like. This part of the garden is quite interesting because when I moved here, this was all lawn. And when Jeff and I got together, we decided rather than buy somewhere else, we'd extend this house because we'd looked and we couldn't find anything we liked, and we thought really we're in a perfect position in many ways. Jeff was happy to move here from Cheltenham. He loved the village and the pub and and the aspect. So we've built an extension on the side. And at the time, none of the houses had windows on this side because it's quite cleverly built, this estate, so that nobody overlooks anybody else. But I felt I wanted a window to look out onto this bit of the garden. And because they allowed us to do it as long as it wasn't too high, and I'm very glad we did. And we decided we ought to try and develop this side of the garden because it was literally just a lawn. And we found this company called Beautiful Gardens online. And if you sent them all the measurements and the information and what you wanted, the sort of garden you wanted, they asked lots of questions, they would design it for you. And we've got the design by the front door.
Yes.
And it was £125. And we thought, that's really cheap. What we never ever anticipated was it was probably going to cost us £10,000 to actually do it. Right. But by then we were committed to this idea. And we have never regretted it because it's made a lovely space on this side of the house. And so, yeah, and it's really maturing now. So we've got you 3 children bought me Aces for Christmas last year. This is one of them. She's doing very well. And this is a pot inside a bigger pot because they don't like being put in too big a pot themselves. So you need to sort of grow them. And I've got 3 Aces that you bought me, and they're all doing really well. So again, memories of you 3 whenever they... Now these are heucheras, which I'm very fond of. Very favourite plants these are. I've got them everywhere now in the garden, but they're lovely, aren't they? And there's a company called Heucheraholics, and they are very very much into their heucheras, but they do them in the most fantastic colours. And you can buy about 4 or 5 different colours if you go to the supermarket. But these, I love the fact that these veins echo the colour of this one. And you you can really play around with the colours and designs. And now this is, we call our French garden, this bit here. Don't know why, but again, I put a mirror there. And then
quite
this
a French-looking mirror.
It is, yes. And this was my other mosaic I made last year, which was from a kit, actually. But I just wanted to have a go at doing something a bit more funky. And I really like it, actually. And then Jeff's youngest daughter and oldest daughter bought us Colin the cat for our anniversary last week. And he's great, isn't he? He's just really quirky.
He looks really good there.
He does.
And he actually is the same colours as
exactly. I said to them,
yeah.
we'll put it in the French garden. He's great. I love him. And I just like, well, Jeff loves the blue. He just thinks it really lifts this corner. And I've got a blue ball and I've got some blue plants and some yellow plants and things to echo this area. So this is my plant that Alan, the patient I was talking to you about, gave me, which has the most beautiful pheasant's tails, they're called, in the summer that hang off it. But it's just a lovely shrub. I cut it back every year. These I absolutely love. These are Japanese painted ferns. Which in a shady bit, they're just lovely. Ferns are great if you've got a shady area. They're fantastic. So I'm very partial to those. And then I quite like quirky things. The lady in the... I've got a craftsy thing I bought online for pots. She's an English lady who talks to you about... gardens and making lovely pots, but also garden moments. So I have garden moments. Colin's
must
one.
be like Twitter moments in some way.
Yeah. Colin, you bought me that when I moved here 17 years ago. This lovely snail. So he's there. Yes. I bought this rather nice dragonfly from the Malvern show one year. I just like him, and we had a bird nesting in here last year, and the bird used to land on that before it got into its... I think actually this tree is rather impeding its access now.
It is now. Slightly in the way.
It is,
yeah,
yes.
But, you know,
yes.
I mean, you're allowed to have some things that aren't absolutely amazing in your garden.
This is true, yes.
Where should we go next?
Right, now the other thing I'm getting very passionate about is succulents. So these are...
Oh, yeah, these are cool, actually.
Yeah, they're nice, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they've become fashionable this year, properly fashionable, so that shops like Webb's do a whole section on succulents and the pots, because what you need is shallow pots. Now, I had a beautiful Cretan pot from Grandma, which unfortunately the hose got hooked round last year and it got knocked off and broke. So I rescued the succulents, and so this year I thought what I want to do is to put it on two. So I put an upside down pot and then balance this one. In the winter we'll need to keep it away from frost.
So why do they need a shallow pot?
I think it's because they don't really grow. If you see these in the sillies, they grow on nothing. I mean, they're house leeks, and they almost need no... They're very tolerant of sun and stuff, and they don't like getting wet. They hardly need any nutrients because they store all their water in their leaves. And so and this one is typical of the sillies. There are hundreds of these, and this we went to a very quaint, a lovely garden the other week, and we were standing, and he'd got lots of this particular one, and in fact I bought these from her for £2 each, which is a bargain, as they say.
It is, isn't it?
Another friend, very good friend of ours, gave me those last year, and they stayed out all winter, much to everybody's amazement. And although the outside leaves are looking a little bit less good, the middle just comes back, and these are some of the gentlemen I went to see the other day who asked me if I'd like some plants, so he gave me those, so I put those there. And so yes, they're lovely, and I've just taken some leaf cuttings, and I'm going to try and see if I can propagate them, because Anne and I think we could have a permanent stall with the neighbours next year. I've asked her if I can borrow her greenhouse, you see, because it's huge,
right,
and share it a little bit with, so that it's somewhere I can overwinter pots, and she's very happy for me to do that.
Yeah, great.
Now I don't know if you recognise this, Rachel, but this is the tree from the bell that we were trying to find online, that you helped me with. You retweeted my tweet about.
Oh,
yes,
right.
Yes. And of course, being me, here it is.
So
Took me
you've got
ages.
one.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
took me ages to find it.
We went to actually, I must take a picture of that. We went to a big sort of family get together for your anniversary, your wedding anniversary.
Just a couple of weekends.
A couple of weekends ago, you spotted this tree. We didn't know what it was, and we couldn't find how to work out what it was.
And then tweeted it, and then you retweeted it, which was very helpful.
Yes, we asked the Twitter sort of collective if they could identify it, and sure enough, somebody came back
with the wrong answer, as it turned out. Only I didn't like to go back and tell him that, but yes, it wasn't quite right. It wasn't far off, but.
So how did you identify?
So in the end,
and what is it?
It's a. Oh, the other thing is you'll see, Eleagnus angustifloria quicksilver.
And it's Eleagnus, is it?
Yes,
Angustifolia.
Okay. And it's the other word for it is a Russian olive, which actually, when you think about it, is what it looks like. Because it does look like an olive, it looks like olives.
Yeah.
And what I discovered was that so I looked for it online, and Crocus, the shop I use online a lot, was going to get them back in for next September. It's a very, very fast growing, and it sends out suckers. So I thought, no way I want that in the ground, which is probably why they got it in pots. But it clearly was doing really well in that pot. And it's apparently beautiful because it's very silver all year. And so you get this nice, not very nice in the winter, but that doesn't matter because we don't really see it. So I looked at Crocus, £50 it would have been in September. So I thought, oh, well, I'll think about that. And then I checked it out again and found this nursery somewhere. I can't remember what the nursery was called now. And they had it for £10. And I thought, oh, that's going to be a pathetic specimen for £10. Anyway, I sent the lady a message and said, have you got it with one stem? Because it is a shrub, really. I said, I want to grow it as a tree in a pot. So could you find me one with a stem? Yes, no problem. That's absolutely fine. And it was £10. And when it came, it was, it's this size. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm really chuffed with that. Jeff couldn't quite believe his eyes. He said, I don't believe this. Because he always jokes and says, we'll have it in the house on Tuesday. And we more or less did. Oh, dear. And this maple is just amazing. This maple, I think I might even have brought with me from Eton, but I can't be sure. And it did nothing. It was pathetic for years. Then when we had the house redeveloped, the men moved it from over there somewhere to here. And it's just gone from strength to strength. And it's really mature now. So each year it puts on... I can keep it quite small, but I just love it. It doesn't really like direct sunlight, and it does get a lot of it, because the acers all prefer a shady.
So this is related to an acer.
It is an acer. It's a big, yes, it's a bigger.
And it's got these.
Yes, aren't they gorgeous? Little sycamore wings,
yes,
red ones.
Yeah.
But they're gorgeous because they just give this in the spring. They just give this lovely, and they've only had those for about a couple of years. But it will potentially grow into a huge tree, so I need to keep it I want it to go a little bit higher, and but they're easy to trim. And towards the end of the summer, it gets very curly leaves, and I found that if you keep it watered, it helps to stop it doing that.
Right.
But, and then I'm really into my echinaceas, as you know, taking before you go on a plane to stop you being poorly. But actually, the flowers... which unfortunately are not out yet because they're a late summer flower, but they're like big daisies. They're beautiful. This is a very pink bed, this one, because these are pink autumn sedum, I think they're called. As you'll see, well, you would see if they weren't obliterated. I've now started labelling everything. So everything has a label.
It's like the National Trust.
I know. Well, people come round and say...
Really good,
people come round and say, what's that called? And then now I look very intelligent because I have remembered them. And Ian, this neighbour of my friend's husband, was intrigued. Now, Alan Titchmarsh, this was his suggestion, because I've tried white labels that you write on, and they glare out at you. I've tried black ones, with a white, like chalk pen, and nothing survives. And he said, what you need to do is get black tape with white writing on it, and it works brilliantly.
So you've got some kind of ticket.
I've got like a
thing, like one of those,
like a dynamo. Yeah,
I know the one you mean. Yeah,
yeah. Getting black tape was tricky, but I've found a source now. These labels, I've had various ones. These were $2.59 for 300 from China.
Right.
No postage.
And do you have enough?
Well, I bought 300, but to be fair, I have used a lot.
I have used a lot.
Yeah, yeah. But they're brilliant. So that's good.
How many plants do you think you have in your garden?
I hate to think. I really hate to think.
And how big is your garden?
I don't know. What do you think? I mean, it goes around the house on two sides, really, doesn't it? We haven't been out the front yet. So at the back, I would say it's, what do you think, 20 feet to the fence? Or more? I'm not very good on distances. And it's probably 50 feet long, maybe? I don't really know.
I mean, in absolute total, I reckon you've got a tennis court's worth of space.
Yeah, that's probably. Yeah, I think that's probably fair. And we had it
massive.
No, it's not massive.
It's got probably 300 plants in it.
Oh, at least.
Yeah.
Oh no, more than 300, I'm sure. So this. There was a hebe here, which is like a big shrub that took up the entire. I love hebes. I've got a hebe bed at the front. They're little shrubs with pretty leaves. But I find that they do a dwarf version, which is what I've planted. This was huge, and I thought, I'm sure I can do something better here. So the other echinacea that I haven't, it's not come out yet, but it looks very pretty on the pictures. So these are pink echinaceas, and then they do one called Green Envy, which has got a very bright pink middle, and then very pale green petals. It just looks really interesting. So I've planted two of those. This is penstemon, which looks a little bit like a foxglove flower, but it's got lots of flowers. It doesn't grow like a foxglove. This is a beautiful pot that was Mum's. And actually, it doesn't, to me, it looks wrong with something in it, actually, because it's the wrong era for the garden in some ways. My sister, where my dad lives, she lives in an old medieval sort of cottage, and she's got hundreds of these old pots, and they look fantastic. But here, I thought, actually, I quite like it as a garden moment.
Yeah.
Yes. So a garden
It's like
moment.
a Twitter moment.
Yes. Now these troughs, this one I bought when I came here. It was a bargain, but it's a proper stone trough, or concrete maybe. And this one was Mum and Dad's. And Dad said you can have it. And we've got the pattern facing.
Oh, I love that red thing, whatever
it's
that
fabulous,
is.
Isn't it? I haven't got a name for that.
So ignorant.
No, it's
what do you think that is?
Well, I do know what it is. It's like a pink. It's in the pinks family, but it's not a pink.
Because it's red.
But, well, it's not because it's that. I'll look it up actually. I can't remember exactly what it's called. And then I've got gerberas. You know the gerberas, you often get them as cut flowers. Yeah. Well, I've bought 3 plants because I thought they look a bit formal, the way they grow, because they've got a very artificial looking, beautiful head.
Yes,
which
they look like they're not real, don't
they? They do. So I bought, the other 2 are in pots around here, and I thought I'll probably pick those for the garden. Now, the other thing to say is that we have cats, and they're indoor cats, and when we got them, we just felt it was really a shame that they couldn't go out, and we couldn't ever open the doors and just... So we were in the middle of Ireland one day on holiday, and it was chucking it down with rain, and we were sitting in the car, and I thought, what we need is somewhere we can put the cats outside. And I found this father and son who made what we've got, which is meant to be an aviary, but it's rather nice because it's octagonal. And we had a round circle of pavement just where it is. And so before Jeff knew it, we'd ordered it and it arrived. And I went round to my neighbour and said, Terry, I bought this cat house. Well, can you help me put it together? Well, it took us ages, but we're really pleased with it. And it means that Minxie can now go out in the garden. But when we have the new kittens, it's a safe place for them to be. And we can open all the doors and I can bake if I want to and that sort of thing.
And your house is 19, number 19.
And it's 19C.
19C.
Yes, yes.
Not 19A.
No, it's 19C for cats.
Oh, 19C. Hadn't quite appreciated the thought that had gone into this.
Oh, lots of thought.
Right,
yes.
Okay,
yes.
Yep, now.
Yes, now.
What else have we got over here?
Right,
this is the most spectacular bit of the garden, I think.
I think it is, yes. So this is the original pond, sort of. Now, when I was designing the shape of this pond, your grandpa said, what you need, Hilary, is a teardrop. that's what you need. And I had an Indian friend at the time who used to borrow my pond pump, and he said it's a Sri Lankan pond because it's the shape of Sri Lanka, apparently. But anyway, whatever it is, yes, it's a teardrop. And I do love it, actually. And over the years, I mean, this is probably the most mature bit of the garden in some ways. And this Japanese grass.
That is beautiful.
Hucanella macra, and then there's a golden version. It's just beautiful. I love it. The way it just does that, and it's stunning, isn't it? And there's another piece over there. And then this is a variegated bit just here, which you can't really see, but it's just got a lovely habit. We've got 3 acers here, which I love. They're very slow growing. This is probably 8-9 years old, so they don't get huge, but they do gradually. This is a weeping cherry, so it has lovely blossom. And I'm trying to get more colour into this bit. So there's a bleeding hearts, they're called, on the back, which I transplanted from that bed last year, so that's doing well. And then these long things I can't remember what they're called, but I'm never sure whether I like them or not, but I think they'll be pretty, because what they effectively have is just lots of little purple flowers when they come out, and they hold their shape. I don't like flowers in my garden that fall over. They're not allowed to fall over.
Right.
Because they annoy me.
They've got to hold their own
Must
shape.
have
backbone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or I've got some very pretty supports otherwise.
For the ones that are so beautiful you can cope with them flopping.
Yeah. This is fantastic stuff. It's often called a camellia plant, and it's very, you rub your fingers on that. It's got a really interesting smell, almost orangey, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And I love it, but it's incredibly invasive.
Again,
and it likes quite moist conditions. So I've made a bog pot just by lining it with a very thick black plastic bag, cutting a few slats in the bottom because you don't want it to be stagnant. And then you can grow bog plants in a pot brilliantly. And it's done so well.
And that just retains a lot of the water.
Yeah, it just keeps it moist all the time. So and in the winter it dies back to nothing. Yeah, that will be quite wet because I watered it. Well, it's not that wet, but yeah, it keeps. But it's lovely, isn't it? I love it. And it just adds
lovely pink fringes around the leaf.
It's pink and pale yellow and dark green, and actually the petunias that I've planted in those pots, which are not out or even big enough to look at anything, are similar. They've got a very dark brown outside, then a line of pink, and then some yellow. So similar, really. And my arum lilies, which I've cultivated over many years, are finally producing flowers every year consistently now, the white ones, which are lovely.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And then my 2 clematises over that are just gorgeous. I love the Josephine on the right, which is a very blousy one, but I love it. And it flowers its socks off. It took about 4 years for it to get properly going, but now it's my neighbours like it too. And the white one's really pretty.
Sort of metal arch support.
And that's, yes. And
2 clematises growing towards each
other. So I've got
other.
a white one going towards, on the left, and a pink one on the right, and they're getting to the point where they're going to meet. And my other garden moment, my wind spinner from Texas, I love, is in the middle, hanging down. And
with a crystal on the end?
Yes, with a crystal on the end. And it just does that all. In the wind it goes faster, but it's always turning, actually. It's so I quite like that. These irises are new this year. I've been wanting to grow this particular iris for a long time, and it's probably last year, actually, I put them in. But they're pretty, aren't they?
And it's a sort of, what colour would you call that? Like indigo?
Indigo. Pale indigo.
It's very intense.
It's beautiful,
actually.
yes.
Yeah.
And there's another one over there, Iris sibirica, I think they're called. And so that's it. And now this bit, so last year we had, all the years I've been in this house, we own the peripheral 2 sides of the house. There's a wall on the left and there was a fence on the right. And this fence belongs to my neighbours, and they've replaced it, every panel more or less, in the last couple of years.
And have you tried to keep plants off it?
I have now, yeah. So last year, when the fence was really falling down and we needed to do something about it, a couple of years ago we decided perhaps we'd investigate how much a wall would cost, and we couldn't. And Jeff was quite keen to put the wall there. They're not cheap. Probably double the cost that a fence would have been, because we would have had to have put concrete posts in, which we didn't have. So that in itself would have been an expense, but we probably did end up paying double. But we really haven't regretted it. The main reason for having the wall was so I could have a door in it, an illusion door, if I'm honest.
Which is another garden moment.
Which is another garden moment, and
has probably the most
a real
spectacular
talking
one.
point,
Yes.
which Rachel, I'm sure, will photograph. And it's a door a gate that looks as if it's open onto another garden or into my next door garden. And people quite often sit and say, Henry, why have you got a gate into your neighbour's house? And we had a chap playing bridge with us for a month, and he suddenly said, that's not real, is it? I've wondered why that gate's always open like that and they never shut it. And in order for it
kicks in, you think, surely we should bolt that gate.
Yes, I know.
And
well,
it
in
doesn't
fact,
exist.
No. In fact, well,
you have put a gravel path up to it.
Yes.
And, I mean, people would be forgiven for thinking that there was a gate in the wall, as opposed to that you'd put a mirror with a gate.
Well, I think it wouldn't have worked if it had just been in the wall without a path. And for me, but
no, that's true.
When we did it, I wasn't sure what I was going to do with this path. I'd thought about mosaicing it in various things, and actually, because it's a modern brick wall, which some people would think was not, but it's a modern house, so and then we decided we'd just put the terracotta chippings down, which matched the wall, and keep it fairly simple, because I think it could have been too busy, and then the planting either side wouldn't have worked. More heucheras, but I think this bed will be lovely when it's only a year old, so it's its first summer. So as you can see, I might have put a few too many plants in it.
And you've got alliums in here,
Lots
which I'm
of
pointing
alliums.
out mostly to prove
that
that you know the name of the plant. And then what are these pink things?
They're peonies.
Mm-hmm.
They're really beautiful and very blousy and very gorgeous. They don't flower for long, but I just thought, and they're called Coral Charm, and I just thought it would be lovely to have a peony, because the leaves are quite pretty when it dies down, and it gives you a focus.
These are clearly a floppy plant that you love so much you've allowed in.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've got a support around them, and you've sort of...
And it's a very beautiful
bicycle
support.
clipped them
to... I've plant clipped them.
Plant clipped them to the support that you've got in.
Yeah.
And they're actually looking...
Well, it's a young plant.
Fairly robust.
So in time they will get a lot bigger.
Yeah.
But what I probably need is a peony support that's more like that, but on a bigger scale. Because actually they need that I just think that's such a pretty support that I liked it anyway. But I think I might put that around something else. Something's eating that, whatever it is. But these are heucheras, which I planted last year, and again they're lovely. And what I found with having the path up the middle is that I can... They always tell you to put 3 of everything in gardens. Well, with a garden this size, 3 of something, you might only have 3 or 4 things. And then to me, it would have looked a bit... I wanted it to have a bit of an impact, this bed, and for things to come out in a sort of series of stages. So these irises are new. And when I was looking for what to go in the garden... This got such a good write-up because it has these gorgeous sort of almost dark purple stems as it's coming out. You can see on that one over there, the buds look quite tropical almost. Mm. And then they have these gorgeous, delicate little flowers. And that should flower for a while. And again, each year it'll get stronger and stronger. This is really pretty. It has little layers of purple flowers in time. The rose is gorgeous. It's called Golden Celebration. We haven't got a Golden Celebration, but we just like the rose. And it's got huge yellow flowers when that comes out. So I'm sort of keeping it to sort of purples, yellows.
When does that rose come out?
Soon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, the alliums, if you have alliums, you need lots, basically.
Not 3.
Well, you just need, and you see, as the foliage on these plants, in another 2 or 3 years, all you'll see is the top of the alliums peeping out.
Oh, right, wow.
But these 3 are Allium Globemaster. Mm-hmm. So the others are all Purple Sensation, which is the bog standard one. And if they all come out at subtly different times, so you need to have all one variety. Over there, we've got Christophii, which is a different one, but I think these are fantastic. I've only just never planted them before.
They're very
they're gorgeous, aren't they?
sort of impressive.
Yes, they are. I might plant a few more of those, because also they've got a lovely big head, which is... I'll see how long they last. They're a little bit later coming out.
And they've put up such a massive stem, which
it's
dies
amazing.
off completely, doesn't it? And then they put up a new stem every year.
Yeah.
Which is putting the floppy plants to shame.
Well, it is, because they hold their shape, don't they? Brilliantly.
All by themselves.
All by themselves,
Any of this
exactly.
nonsense.
No, so I'm quite keen on those. This is another Acer that you gave me.
I don't remember giving you any.
No, you didn't. What you did was you said, what would you like for Christmas, Mum? And I said, I would love some Crocus vouchers because I'd like to get some Acers. And then I happened to go online. I was going to get 2. I happened to go online on Cyber Monday. Didn't know Cyber Monday existed, but Cyber Monday it was.
Cider Monday.
Cyber, yes. And they'd reduced them from £30 to £20. And then there was 20% off. Right. So I bought 4.
Sweet.
Yeah. So this wall has been a great success. I must say, we love it. So my one nod to Jeff would love this garden to be all about vegetables, but
it really isn't.
It really isn't. No. And it's a difficult garden to grow vegetables in, to be fair, because it's not. I haven't got a place I can dedicate to vegetables, and he's not really interested in the garden, which he's the first to admit. So he loves to look at it and he loves to be in it. But I'm quite happy actually with the fact that I can more or less do what I like, which is lovely, because I think I'd struggle if I had a gardener, another gardener in the house who wanted to do polar opposites to me.
Yes.
My neighbours, Anne and Dave, are great. Anne does all the thinking and what she wants, and Dave digs the holes and does what he's told, and that works very well.
Sounds ideal.
But we have been to a garden where the couple have separate sides because so he has one bit
all down the middle,
and they're not allowed to encroach in each other's.
No.
So I'm actually quite happy to be the gardener, more than happy. There's nothing I don't enjoy doing.
But what you were saying was that this is a nod over here.
This is a nod to, we've got 2 gooseberry bushes.
Aspiration.
Yes, so
right?
we've got 2 gooseberry bushes. We did have a red gooseberry, but it died, and so I've replaced it with a bog standard one. And they're standard gooseberries, because you will remember from childhood days, all of you do. Hannah still threatens me with how dreadful it was being sent out to pick gooseberries on our low-level spiky bushes that we had loads of. Do you remember?
With hamsters buried underneath.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And so...
And a bird.
And a bird.
Who was called Twitter.
Yes, amazingly. Yes, no, there you go.
Connected those
and
things.
Named by you
Twitter
as Twitter. Yes,
Twitter,
you did.
Yeah.
So Jeff's been and picked these, but we get probably 5 or 6 pounds of gooseberries off this little bush.
What you want to do if you're having difficulty with gooseberries is bury hamsters under the bushes.
Yes, absolutely. We don't have hamsters, so I might have to go and rob a few. And Jeff, the thing he loves most about the garden, I think, is the herbs. You often see him coming. So we need to replace some of the parsley, actually. And the mint, as you can see, is very...
Oh, you don't want to bother with parsley, no.
Oh, well, no, he likes parsley.
Okay.
Chives we have, and we've got lots of thyme. That's a savoury herb, it's called, and it is savoury. And then we bought some fennel and mint, as you can see, it's doing well. I really need to make mint tea more often, because I do like it. And then these are my pots, which I'm hoping, as I say, these are trailing, so they'll trail over the edge. And then these petunias are the ones that are dark purple, pink and yellow. And then these are chocolate cosmos, so they're deep sort of chocolatey colour. And these are pink, so I think it'll be pretty when it's out. And those are my other 2 gerberas.
Are these lasagna pots I keep hearing so much about?
I haven't. No, I haven't. I did try some lasagna pots. I possibly will in the spring.
This is where you plant things.
You plant things at different levels,
and then they all come out at different times of year.
Yeah.
Which is good for a tiny garden.
Yeah, so it is. Yeah. Well, and I think I've got some daffodil bulbs which I might layer in smaller pots. And I think, and also the gentleman I went to see who said he got some plants for me has given me these dahlias. His whole garden was planted with dahlias. So there's nothing out at the moment because they don't come out yet. But in and amongst, he had a box with 100 of these plants in, probably, all tied together like this. And that says white, so that's a white dahlia, is all I know about it.
See, that to me looks like
It looks quite
an old bit of stick.
Quite rude, doesn't it, really? This one,
yes, I suppose.
yes, this one is yellow cactus, so that's another dahlia.
Okay.
So and they grow from these tubers.
Right, so you plant the tubers. And
so I've ordered online some big black plastic pots because I think I'm going to plant them in pots. And then in the summer when they come out and other things are going over, I shall just place the pots in and amongst, and then we can have some instant colour. That's probably the best way to deal with those. Now we probably need to go out to the front because there's a whole other bit of the garden.
Okay.
How are we doing for time?
Well, I've got 40 minutes on tape.
Really?
Yes. So I don't know. Well, I don't know. I mean, is the front?
No, not much. No.
Yes.
Just whiz round.
Just open this, sorry.
Whiz round.
Yes. So this is the front of the house.
Hold on.
Right. So this is the front of the house. Now I've spent last year edging all my beds, all the lawn with this plastic edging stuff, which has made a big difference
Very good,
actually.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And we've replaced the old lavender, which was huge, with some new plants. So they've only just been planted, but they're doing well. So we own the front of the house and this side bed. And I've planted quite a lot of new plants similar to what we've got at the back. But the thing that we did this year, which has improved, that's a lovely Magnolia stellata. So it's one of the smaller magnolias, but it has the pretty white starry flowers. And it's doing really well. When I was digging the hole for this 8 years ago, if one neighbour came past and said, I wouldn't put that there. I've had those, they don't work. Oh, I wouldn't plant that, it'll die. I would have...
So how many neighbours did that?
I think about 8 people told me.
Told
Yeah.
you not to plant this
Yeah.
year.
It's the wrong
Doing
place.
all right, isn't it?
Yeah. It's doing all right, yeah. I've never had very many perennial geraniums before. You think of geraniums as the ones that a single stem and a pretty flower in a pot.
Yes.
They're actually pelargoniums.
Oh, they're not geraniums.
These are geraniums.
Right.
And they're much more, these little leaves, little flowers. But I decided they're really good for ground cover, so I thought I shall plant some this year.
And what's this thing with the white variegated leaves?
It's a bush. I don't know what that one's called.
Okay.
And I haven't got a label for it. I don't really know what that is.
No, okay.
I don't know what any of these three are here. But it's quite a good space
That's
filler.
reassuring. If
Yes,
anything,
oh
you
yes,
don't know what
yes.
something is. It's
Now,
fine.
and then my neighbours and I, we had this grass carried on down there.
Oh, I
And my
remember,
friend's husband said, "Well, have you ever thought of losing that grass, Hilary? Because it's a pain, isn't it, to mow?" And it was. So we decided, with their agreement, that we'd Melvin wanted to be able to still get out of his side gate onto grass because he didn't mind mowing it. But we discussed what to plant. We decided we needed one plant, so we've planted heucheras all the way down here. And we get loads of comments. I mean, it's the first year, so they're not very spectacular at the moment. But as you can see, they're looking quite healthy.
They are?
Apart from this one and another one like it. In fact, both of them are called Pinot Gris. You see, I'd never remember any of this. So with the labels, it's brilliant. Just know what they're all called. And when I looked on the back, they'd got heuchera rust, which is when you get little pustules all over the backs. So I looked up on Heucheraholics what to do.
They would know.
They knew. Mm-hmm. She said, cut all the leaves off, get rid of them.
Right. Okay.
Leave
So
the
that's
growing
why that
point.
one- yeah.
And the
What's
new
the growing point?
well, just where you can see new really little leaves coming. So you're not chopping off the main bit that's growing.
I see. Right.
And I only did that 2 days ago, so you can see it's recovering already.
It's called Pinot Gris.
Pinot Gris, yes. And there's another one which was also Pinot Gris, which also had the rust, which is interesting. The rest seem okay. These really prefer... There aren't many of them that like to be in full sun, so she chose us 24 that were okay with bright sun. So we're pleased with this, yeah. And
Lovely.
another of Mum's favourite purple, Erisma Bowles Mauve, is a fantastic plant for any garden because it just does that all summer. It's a bit like lavender, but it's easier to look after than lavender in a way. And you just need to I'm very good at deadheading now. Didn't used to deadhead, but I do now.
When you say you're very good at it,
Well, I try and go round and actually take the heads off things.
Okay.
Yeah,
How do you know when to do that?
when they look dead, basically.
So when things look dead,
when
take the heads off.
when they've
I'm going to
gone
take a
over.
picture of this because this would be good in my garden. Especially
Yeah.
if it's like
Oh, it's
lavender that you
fantastic.
just care
No,
for.
it's
Sounds like
fantastic.
my sort of thing.
The bees love it. It's cheap.
So it's called
Really cheap. Yeah.
Erysimum bowls, right? Okay. Let's take a picture of that.
For the perennial wallflower, because that's what it is. It's a perennial wallflower.
Okay.
It's the only one. There are others. The yellow one is a perennial wallflower, but to me, it doesn't really have the. It's not the same sort of plant as that. That's fantastic, and they're fairly short-lived in that they might. You need to cut them back, and they might only really look really nice for maybe 3 or 4 years. But they're £3.50 each, and that one was £3.50. Well, you can see in another few months it's going to be huge. So you just dig them up and put another one in, really. Red hot pokers I quite like in and amongst. So yeah, and then we own all this bit at the front. So very quickly, we had a big tree in that bed which got knocked over in the wind. Well, it died and then got knocked over. So I've replaced it with these. We'll have to go over there because I can't remember what they're called. But I wanted something, because this is obviously quite an important screen for this road, because it's quite a busy road.
You can hear that in the
Yeah, you
background,
can. Yeah.
It is a busy road.
It
isn't
is,
But
really.
you're actually set.
We're set quite
Fair
back
amount
from
back
it.
from
Yeah.
it.
So I've chosen some plants. This black one I love. It grows very big, but you can keep it small. This is only 2 years old. Sambucus black lace, that is. Mm-hmm. And I've seen lots of people where they've trained it more like a tree, so it's sort of got a bit of a stem, because it naturally. So I'm hoping that the stem will grow.
So when you say trained it like a tree, what does that mean? Like you cut the branches off as they grow?
Well, it's a shrub, really. So often it has lots and lots of stems coming from the bottom, which probably this has. This has more like that. This is also a Sambucus, but this is Sambucus Gold, I think it's called. And I just love the acid yellow in comparison. And these will grow as big as I let them. This is a Ceanothus, which we both love, which has blue flowers. And then I've got the Rabinus, or whatever those little hedges are called. They're great because they have their new leaves are red. And you can train that like a hedge. You can chop it. And so hopefully this will all screen the road. And that will get to as big as those.
How do you train a bush like a tree?
Well,
I don't understand.
You try and isolate. So if you're buying something that you know is a shrub, but you want it to be more like perhaps a shrub with a stem and then a head, which is what that will grow like. So I took off. There was some low. You can see there was a low branch. Look at the very bottom. So I chopped that off, and then. Inevitably, it's only got that main stem, really. So I'm just going to have to see what happens. But I'll try and now keep it as a sort of head of something and hope that grows a bit taller. But if you were buying a shrub like this one... So if this grows, then you're going to have it up off the ground. Some shrubs will have lots of stalks that come out from the ground. I'm just trying to think what we've got. And they're clearly shrubs, and you wouldn't be able to make them into a tree. But the silver tree in the pot is also a shrub.
Yeah.
So in lots of garden centres, what you'd get is a multi-stemmed. So it would be in the pot and be lots of stems coming out, and it would grow like a bush, like those bushes over there, really.
So you just pick one with a.
You pick one and you think.
Long stem.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think the road noise is such that we probably can't be heard very well right now, but
and
anyway.
This is quite nice for shady plants, so I quite like the fact that I can put shady plants in there.
Yes.
And this is my Hebe bed.
You've got mistletoe in this tree, Mum.
I know. Amazing. Yep. It's about 3 years old. 4 years
Very
old,
handy
maybe.
for
Yeah,
Christmas,
it is.
isn't
Yeah,
it?
very handy.
Right.
But these are Hebes.
Yeah.
They never look so good at this time of year, but in the spring they look fantastic because they have bright new pink leaves as they come out, At this time of the year, they're fine. They just make a sort of tapestry of plants, but they're good. They're very easy to grow. They're very sort of habit forming. They just form nice little mounds, but they're the dwarf ones.
Right. Got you.
So there we are.
Cool. Well, thank you very much
It's
for
a
taking me
pleasure.
around your garden.
It's a pleasure. Well, it's a pleasure to do
Gone
it.
a bit noisy at the end.
Yes.
Never mind. I think we managed to get everything in.